Tonight, let's stand as we sing. Michelle and our youth people are all at Rhema tonight, and so we're going to sing some Christmas songs, if that's okay with you. Okay, let me try that again. Ready? The first Noel, the angel did say, was to certain poor shepherds in fields as they lay, in fields where they lay keeping their sheep on a cold winter's night that was so deep. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. They looked up and saw a star shine in the east beyond them far, and to the earth it gave great light, and so it continued both day and night. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. Then let us all with one accord sing praises to our heavenly Lord, that hath made heaven and earth of naught, and with his blood mankind hath bought. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. Wow, I thought I just need the words. I don't need the music in front of me. Well, surely I did. Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus no crying he makes. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my cradle till morning is nigh. Be near me, Lord Jesus, I ask thee to stay close by me forever and love me, I pray. Bless all the dear children in thy tender care, and take us to heaven to Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born. We need a deeper breath. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of beaming grace. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Jim, we lead some prayer, please.
Father, we come tonight thanking you and praising you. Father, we thank you so much for the gift of eternal life that comes through faith in our Lord Jesus, who loved us and gave himself for us. Father, tonight we just thank you for the privilege that we have of gathering and the opportunity to do so in freedom. Father, we just pray that you would bless our endeavors and receive our worship and our praise. And I ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Man, you may receive. Good evening. Man, Christmas songs are always high. And obviously, I need the music to know when to say what word. Oh, well. You think as many times we sing those in our life, I'd get them right by now. But, yeah, that's it. That's just sing them a few times a year, and that's it. And then you go and try to carol, and if you do good to remember the first verse, it's usually pretty good, right? So, and I'm already half hoarse, so that didn't help the situation much, but that's all right. Everybody else struggling with this stuff. It's like everybody in our house has it. Submitting my name for music director? Yeah. No, yeah, never mind. 1 Samuel chapter 9. 1 Samuel chapter 9. If you're a parent or been a parent, you know the difference when your kids ask for something they need and something they want. And have you ever got to the place that you give your kids something they want, even though you realize it's probably not exactly what they need? We've all been there, right? It's just we give in. Maybe we've get to that place that we just say, okay, enough's enough. Okay, sure, you want that? I had some, it could have been better, but fine, you take that. It just kind of, they're settling, and you know they're settling, but you just kind of go along with it anyway. Well, that's where we're at tonight in 1 Samuel chapter 9. We saw in chapter 8 where they began to cry out for a king, and they wanted a king. They didn't care that God had told them that they didn't need a king yet, and they are crying out, and finally God just says, fine, but and he actually warned them. He said, this is what you're going to get. You're going to have someone that's going to do this and this and that. And he kind of laid it out there for them, and they were excited. It's kind of like that child that wants something to eat, just like that's going to give you a tummy ache, and they keep begging, it's fine, just have it. You're going to have a tummy ache. And they start complaining of a tummy ache. I warned you. And that's kind of the situation that is here. They were wanting something that God knew was not what was best for them, and yet he finally just gave in and let them have what it was that they'd asked for. And he gave them what they wanted instead of what they needed. And so let's look at 1 Samuel chapter 9, and we're going to look some at chapter 10 tonight, but we'll just kind of refer there. And I'm debating how much I really want to read. Let's start about the first 10 verses, and we'll kind of go from there. It says, there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, son of Zeor, son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a man of wealth. And he had a son whose name was Saul, a handsome young man. There was not a man among the people of Israel more handsome than he. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. So Kish said to his son Saul, take one of the young men with you and arise and go and look for the donkeys. And he passed through the hill country of Ephraim and passed through the land of Shalishah, but they did not find them. And they passed through the land of Shalem, but they were not there. Then they passed through the land of Benjamin, but did not find them. When they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to the servant who was with him, come, let us go back, lest my father cease to care about the donkeys and become anxious about us. They traveled quite a ways just to look for some animals, hadn't they? But he said to them, behold, there is a man of God in this city, and he is a man who is held in honor. All that he says comes true. So now let us go there. Perhaps he can tell us the way we should go. Then Saul said to his servant, what if we go? But if we go, what can we bring the man? For the bread in our sacks is gone, and there is no present to bring to the man of God. What do we have? The servant answered Saul again, here, I have with me 1/4 of a shekel of silver, and I will give it to the man of God to tell us our way. Formerly, in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he said, come, let us go to the seer, for today's prophet was formerly called seer. And Saul said to his servant, well said, come, let us go. So they went to the city where the man of God was. Father, I pray that God, that as we look here at the beginning of a new chapter of the people of Israel, that Lord, that you will show us the application that it had for our lives. And God, that as Saul comes into this picture, a man that seemed to fit all the worldly qualifications of such office. But God, I pray that you will help us to be people who always look to you and show us that need tonight. Amen. We're going to look at 5 outcomes to getting our way with God. We're going to look at 4 outcomes to getting our way with God because I labeled it wrong. I was going to say, what was the 5th one? It wasn't coming into my mind. I was like, what did I just do? Number 1 is when we get our way instead of God's way, we get inferior leadership. That's what they got. It goes all the way back to what we've looked at the last couple times, and that is they got a king instead of God. They wanted a worldly leader. They wanted someone they could see. They were tired of going through these other prophets. They were tired of having judges that would arise for a time. They were tired of going through good times and bad times. And they thought if we could just have a king. And what they were choosing was a worldly leader instead of God. And I think that any of us here could see the error of that, but yet I wonder sometimes if we do the same thing. We're looking for other people to help us. We're looking for other people to give us answers when it's really an answer that we need to get from God. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're looking for someone that will agree with us and make us think it's okay to do what we're doing. And I know we're always a lot more hesitant to go to God if we don't really know. We're kind of worried about how he might answer, right? And it's, maybe I'll just go over here and this person will make me feel good. And we have to be careful as church members when someone's coming to us for that reason. I mean, as a pastor, people do that to me sometimes, and I can tell real quick in the conversation what they're wanting me to do is tell them it's okay. The dude just keep on sinning. It's all right. You have a good reason. You have my blessing. It's what they're wanting, and they're trying to get a blessing from a leader instead of a blessing from God. And we're going to always find ourselves not receiving the full blessing of God when we're always trying to find a person to do what God is supposed to be doing in our life. There's not a person that can be a substitute for God. And and like I said, we need to watch out. As many of you leaders in our church, when people come up to you, don't give them permission to do something that you know that they're not supposed to be doing. I mean, and what it is, they're coming up to us and saying, well, this is what's going on, but I just, it's just the way it is. And you're just going to make them feel so good when you say, well, it's all right. But maybe what they need is for you to say, you need to stop it. Just stop it. I love that video clip of, what is that? Newhart clip. Love it. The person's there, well, I just have this problem. He goes, stop it. And another person goes, I got this problem. Just stop it. And we need more people we need more people around us that will tell us to just stop it. And instead of just making us feel okay for what we're doing. I'm just as bad as everybody else. It's all right. Everybody's doing it. And so we need to make sure that we're not getting inferior leadership. Number 2, inferior qualities. Okay, I want you to understand, when I look at prophecies that happened before this time, and we'll look at some of those in a little bit, I think that God eventually was going to give them a king. Is that wrong to say? I mean, you go back and look at some of the things he said in Genesis to Joseph at Isaac's death, I believe it was. We'll look at that in a second. But he said the same things that seemed like that he was pointing them to a king. And I don't think that necessarily God was ever saying, no, that's never going to happen. But this was not the time. But yet, when they finally just said, we want one, we want him now. And God looks around and said, okay, here's your one. And eventually David's going to step up, and David's going to be a man that has the qualities that were necessary for a good king. But Saul had qualities that were good for man to think that he was going to be a good king. I love the way that describes him here. There was not a man among the people of Israel more handsome than he. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. I mean, this is a guy that's a leader. I mean, who else are you going to look to than that person? He looked the part of leader. And he had wealth. You say, what does it say in here about wealth? His dad had a lot of donkeys. I don't know how you measure wealth in donkeys, but having a lot of donkeys was wealth. Not everybody would have had a lot of livestock of any kind. And he had a lot of donkeys that he was out looking for. He's the tallest man around. In chapter 10, go ahead and go to chapter 10, verse 23. I kind of like the way it's described over in chapter 10. He says, this is when he was running around hiding. He says, then they ran and took him from there, and when he stood among the people, he was taller than any of the people from his shoulders upward. Then Samuel said to the people, do you see him who the Lord has chosen? There was none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted, long live the king. What were they looking for? They hadn't heard him talk. They don't even know if he could talk. All they could do was see his physical appearance, and it was good enough for them. Isn't that interesting? That they were completely responding. Man, that this guy, he was handsome, he looked good, obviously comes from some good family. And so the qualities they got just weren't the qualities that God looked for. Compare him to David. David was said to be a man after God's own heart. And Saul was wealthy and tall. I mean, it's just the qualifications, the qualities that they were looking for were not the same things that God would have had them to have. But he let them have what they want so that he could make them happy. Number 3, we get inferior qualifications, not just the qualities, but the qualifications that are there. It says that he was a Benjamite, the least of the tribes. But it was not what God desired, and it was not what he had prophesied. God appointed that it would be a person from the tribe of Judah. Genesis chapter 49. You can turn over there if you like. But Genesis chapter 49, starting in verse 8. It says, Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion and as a lioness. Who dares rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be all the obedience of the peoples. Binding his foal to the vine and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he has washed his garments in wine and his vesture in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine and his teeth whiter than milk. Of course, it's from the tribe of Judah that would come Christ. And so a lot of these things are pointing to Jesus himself, but I think that there's evidence here that it was looking to the lineage of David and the rule that he would have. And so Saul wasn't qualified. He didn't have the right qualities. That's fine. I mean, God can use people that have messed up characters and things. He's done it before. But this man was not spiritually, scripturally qualified to take the office that they were ready to give him with no questions asked. Genesis chapter 49, verse 27 says this about Benjamin. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning devouring the prey, and at evening dividing the spoil. And guess what they get out of Saul? Someone from the tribe of Benjamin. That's a good picture of the way that his reign is going to end, because he was not the right person at the right time. They refused to wait for God's timing. David was not born. It was not the right time. And so they did not get the right person. And number 4, we get inferior priorities. Let's keep going here. I'm going to start reading verse 11 here. It says, as they went up the hill to the city, they met young women coming out to draw water and said to them, is the seer here? And they answered, he is. Behold, he is just ahead of you. Hurry. He has come just now to the city because the people have a sacrifice today on the high place. As soon as you enter the city, you will find him before he goes up to the hill to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat till he comes, since he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now go up, for you will meet him immediately. So they went to the city, and as they were entering the city, they saw Samuel coming out toward them on his way up to the high place. Now the day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed to Samuel, tomorrow about this time I will send to you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him to be prince over my people Israel. He shall save my people from the hand of the Philistines, for I have seen my people because their cry has come to me. When Samuel saw Saul, the Lord told him, here is the man of whom I spoke to you. He it is who shall restrain my people. Then Saul approached Samuel in the gate and said, "Tell me, where is the house of the seer?" And Samuel answered Saul, "I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for today you shall eat with me, and in the morning I will let you go and will tell you all that is on your mind. As for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not set your mind on them, for they have been found, and for whom is all that is desirable in Israel? Is it not for you and for all your father's house?" Saul answered, "Am I not a Benjamite, from the least of the tribes of Israel? And is not my clan the humblest of all the clans of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then have you spoken to me in this way?" Then Samuel took Saul and his young man and brought them into the hall and gave them a place at the head of those who had been invited, who were about 30 persons. And Samuel said to the cook, "Bring the portion I give you, of which I said to you, put it aside." So the cook took up the leg and what was on it and set them before Saul. And Samuel said, "See, what was kept is set before you. Eat, because it was kept for you until the hour appointed, that you might eat with the guests." So Saul ate with Samuel that day. And when they came down from the high place into the city, a bed was spread for Saul on the roof, and he lay down to sleep. Then at the break of dawn, Samuel called to Saul on the roof, "Up, that I may send you on your way." So Saul rose, and both he and Samuel went out into the street. And as they were going down to the outskirts of the city, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the servants to pass on before us, and when he has passed on, stop here yourself for a while, and I may make known to you the word of God." So you have this meeting that happens, directed by God to put Samuel and Saul together. And, Saul had a lot of things going for him. And, he was doing what he needed to do. What was Saul's priority? His priority was to take care of his dad's animals. They were missing, and he was willing to do whatever it took to go and find these animals. He went on a long journey to find the animals. In my mind, it's kind of silly almost to think of all the places that he went just trying to find these donkeys. But he was diligent. He was hardworking. He did a lot of really good things looking for these donkeys. And they can't find them. He finally says, "We probably need to go back. But which way do we go back? Well, let's go and talk to the seer, Samuel, the prophet." And he goes, "I know that there's a man of God up here." And he gets there, and he goes to talk to Samuel. He asks someone, gets the instructions, and goes. And all he could think about was hurrying and getting there before he goes to sacrifice and receives some information. See, he was so wrapped up in his priority of taking care of his dad's animals. He has absolutely no desire to be part of the sacrifice and the worship that was going on that day for God. He missed it. He gets invited, but he did not go there going, "Man, let's hurry. They're going to sacrifice today. Let's go see and get some wisdom about God, or let's learn anything." It was all about, let's go and see if this prophet can tell us what happened to the donkeys. How many times do we treat God that way? We're not concerned about us doing anything for him. It is us, "God, you show me this. God, give me this." His priorities, that's what he was. He was a man that he knew that God had power, and he knew this prophet was a man of God. And the only thing that he cared about that was what that person could do for him. Isn't it kind of funny, though, that he was a man and he stopped to ask for directions? I ask Siri for instructions all the time. He stops and asks for directions, but he doesn't stop and ask about how to get to God. His priority is so out of whack. He didn't care about where they were as a nation. He wasn't fighting the wars. He wasn't worried about worship. His priorities were all about his father's animals. It's treating God like a magic genie. You know people like that? I hope that we're not that way. There's a whole, go to a Christian bookstore and look at the number of books that are on the bookshelf that are nothing more than showing us how to use God to be a magic genie. It's nothing about giving us some magic formula in order to try to manipulate God to have him to give us what we think that we want and what we think we need. Look at how many books are on the bookshelf that tell us how that we are supposed to surrender our lives to the will of God. See how many books are there, because those type of books don't make money. Because people aren't looking to find out what it is that God wants from them. They're trying to figure out how to get what they want from God. And that seems to be exactly where Saul's priorities are. Was he a responsible person? He was responsible to his father. Was he dedicated? Yeah, he was dedicated. But did he care about the things of God? No, because he has this whole miracle that happens. This meeting with Samuel, and the miracle that's there. It's Samuel having him come and be part of the sacrifice and to eat the meal, and this place of honor that he didn't deserve, being a Benjamite. I mean, this great thing, and he's going to come, he's going to tell him, and there's going to be this miracle that happens the next day, I believe it is, that where they cast the lots to see who's going to be. But yet, God's already said it's going to be this person, but they cast the lots, and it comes to the tribe of Benjamin, it comes to the house of Kish, and it comes to Saul. All this, and he's seeing these miracles, and where is he in chapter 10? Do you remember the story? He is hiding. This big man, bigger than anybody else in the room, good-looking guy, Mr. Popular, is going to be hiding. And they're going to have to come find him and drag him out to put him out in front of the people to announce him as king. Because his priorities had nothing to do with what God was wanting from him. So let me conclude with this. Saul was good, but Saul was not great. That which kept him from becoming great is going to be a curse to the people. And it's going to be magnified. Sometimes we need to take the good out of our life so we can replace it with something great. Let that set in a little bit. Where are our priorities? Yeah, this is good. This is good enough. Or is it great? If they would have just waited, they wouldn't have had a nation that had already been messed up by the time David gets on the scene. They wanted it, and was Saul good? He's going to be a good king for a while. He's going to do some things. But they weren't able to see great because they could only think about what they wanted. And when we get selfish, we're always going to settle for second best, even if we think it's good. And it's just like that parent that says, yeah, you want to eat that? You're going to have a tummy ache. You've had enough. Eat it. And what are they thinking the whole time they're eating it? This is good. This is good. A little bit later, they're going, why did I do this? And that's what's going to happen, because it was all about what they wanted and not about what God wanted. So let's stand together for a moment. Let's just bow our heads and close our eyes for a moment. And let's just take an opportunity to stop and to respond to God tonight. If you have a decision you need to make publicly, you can do that at this time. But we're just, most importantly, that you, right now, you take care of saying yes to God. Whatever it is He's put on your heart through His word tonight. Father, thank you for your word, for the truth of your word, and for showing us in our life the times that we settle for good when we could have great. Father, I just pray that you will bless us as we seek your face, as we surrender our life to your will, to do things your way and not our way, to replace our preferences with your preferences. God, I pray that as we go into a time of business tonight, that you will guide us, you give us your wisdom, that it'll be a time of strength and growth, a time of unity. In Jesus' name, amen. Be seated for just a moment.